Well, hello. Good afternoon. This is exciting. This is Sally Jerney Quilts, and this is my quilt channel to share everything quilts and who knows what else we're going to talk about. I'm Sally,
I'm Janie. I'm Sally's daughter.
and we're here podcasting from Madison, Wisconsin. So it has been, I was looking back, this is Sally Jerney Quilts, I think episode 8. It's been 3 months since we've actually been on here as a podcast. So a lot has happened. And I thought I would begin by sharing just a little bit of our chit chat and what's happening just in my current quilting life. And then we can get to a little bit. Jamie and I have a long-standing tradition of going to Door County. And the last couple of years, Door County, Wisconsin, it's, everybody knows where it is. It's kind of it's the Midwest version of the ocean. Anyway, so we love going there to vacation.
This is Wisconsin. It's this part.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. We always laugh because we said it's like the ocean, but no sharks.
That's
we
right.
love it.
No salt, no sharks.
Lake Michigan. Anyway, because of the pandemic and various other factors, Jamie's been up to Door County twice.
I think so. Yeah.
Twice since I have, and which was fun. She and her friend Lisa dashed up. Every time they go, the reason why I allow them to go without me is because they still visit my favorite quilt shop and they bring back goodies. It's not the only reason. But anyway, this time Jamie had been in Door County with her cousins and her aunt taking a kayak class, which was very exciting. She got home and she said, "Mom, I haven't had enough Door County. I didn't get to go do the things that I like to do, especially with you." So we looked she did a quick preliminary look. We couldn't get Poppy into the doggy hotel, so started looking at, what can we do? And we have a dog-friendly peninsula. And so Jamie booked us a night in a wonderful place in Bailey's Harbor, and we went up to Door County for an up and back the next day. And it was with Poppy, and it was just beautiful. We had so much fun. It was a very different trip, and yet not so different, because for years and years and years, we've gone up to Door County with our young boys, Heron and Joe, and usually Door County would be looking for fishing spots for the eldest. That was the big draw for Door County, and so you spent many a time carting Heron all over to various different places.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then we had Joe miniature golfing and go-karting, and I think he went horseback riding one year. And
we wanted to, but
okay. And then Yum Yum Tree. But anyway, the whole focus was on what do we do to entertain the boys. So at one point in this trip, it was very funny when I realized that it wasn't really much different because we had Poppy with us. So we were focusing in on what do we do with Poppy. And they have dog parks and they have friendly eating places, and the place that we stayed was delightful. And so Poppy had herself just the place we were staying was right on Lake Michigan. And that was the one thing you wanted.
Yep, so we got to do some playing in the lake, Poppy and I, so that was lovely.
It was beautiful.
And while Sally was on an excursion, Poppy and I found a new place to play, but I'll let Sally talk about the excursion that she was on.
Right. I haven't been into a brick and mortar quilt shop for like 2 years, something like that. Maybe is it whatever. Pre-pandemic, yes. And it's not to say that I'm not very familiar with the online shopping, and I do that. Yes. Especially Sarah, my Circa Fabrics, as we affectionately call her, my fabric dealer, because she does vintage fabrics, and I love her Etsy shop. Check her out, Circa Fabrics. Anyway, but I hadn't had the thrill of actually going into a shop. And so in Sturgeon Bay, which is just at the beginning of Door County at the base, there's this quilt shop called
Barn Door
Quilts. Yes, and it's been there for I guess it's 18 years, but that seemed forever for me. That's about the time we started going, was about that time. Anyway, I walked, Jamie said, you go on in and just shop to your heart's content. I'll take Poppy and we'll have an adventure. So I walked in the store and it was like, wow, I can't even believe it. It had an older woman had owned it for all this time, and she had lovely fabrics, and it was a beautiful shop, always a good destination quilt shop. But you couldn't see very well in there. You always felt like you wanted to take things outside to really know what the colors were. But the new owner, and I feel remiss that I don't know her name, but I will find that out. She has remodeled, I think it was only last March, and it's the lighting. Weren't you just astounded? And I'm sure she's, she's got her own, every shop has their own idea on what fabrics. There's a lot of the ones that the older lady would have had, but just many new ones. So I was delighted. I absolutely was thrilled being able to be
in. Is that what all this is?
Yeah, that's what all that is. That's just part of, Yes, they can't see it all, but that's, it's a sizable bucket of fabric, plus I've taken a quilt backing size out of there already. So that's not as big as it was. There were I never buy 4 yards of fabric, but
Sorry,
I actually,
made a mess.
It's okay. I mean, I've actually bought that fabric. I'm not going to get into that.
Let's talk about what you've created with that fabric.
Okay. So usually what a stop in a quilt shop will do for me on vacation is it's not only the fabrics, but it's the walking along the beach or picking up rocks, being at, around a whole different group of people, being at new dog parks and meeting lots of new dogs and dog people. That was part of this time. And, just new experiences. And when I come home, it always jump starts my creativity. I just get so excited about my fabrics, and I have plenty of fabrics, but I just started looking at these, and I'll get to my work in progress later, because that's what I actually went.
This is your work in progress.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I also, before I went to Door County, I had made a quilt top that I realized was going to be for Joe for his graduation from high school. And when I was up in Door County, I thought perfect place to pick out the backing for that quilt. And I got backing for that quilt, which Jamie just showed you, and I brought it back to the place we were staying, and I thought it was a little bit too optic, my eyes jiggled and I was like, I don't know that I can do that. So then Jamie said, well, why don't you just go back and, look at the other one you were interested in? Oh my, why don't I just go back the next day? So she's my enabler too. So anyway, I was left again in the shop on the second day. It's amazing what you can get done in 2 days. And I got an equally little, they're like knitters now. They have project bags with the name of the store on it. So I had 2 bags full of the barn door quilt, which are just adorable. So I felt like that was awesome.
Well,
so
see what you got going, Sally.
Okay, so when I got home, and I put I put Joe's backing on his quilt, and also when I was at this quilt shop, I was able to hands-on batting and pick out a batting I thought I'd like. So I got that basted and started to quilt it, and it's really heavy. It's a very heavy, hot quilt.
Is that the same batting that you've got on the smaller
No, this
piece?
is a very light piece.
Okay. Well, so since you're talking about Joe's quilt,
Yeah,
do you want to actually...
Oh, yeah, we could do...
I mean, that's where you're talking about.
Okay. This is, when I went to Door County, I decided to I was going to quilt.
Daughters.
Yeah, I was going to quilt on Joe's quilt, and thank goodness I didn't, because then I decided, well, I'll just, instead of trying to rush a quilt backing and sandwich it together, I think I'll just get a batting. But I had lots of scraps left over, so I made a little piece in progress.
this sort of has the flavor.
Yeah, it's all the,
the
you know, it's
bigger
the
quilt.
pieces of things that were left over. So it's
Mhm.
very Door County-ish. I have some beautiful pictures of this looking out at the lake and the, you know, the waves splashing. So that was kind of fun. So I will in a little bit. I can show you Joe's quilt.
Yeah.
So I've got that to work on. I didn't, because it was Poppy's vacation as well, didn't do as much quilting
All right.
as I normally.
Let's see what you got.
Okay. This, you see how heavy it is?
Yeah.
I don't know how much
pretty
we
heavy.
need. It's very big. And,
Well, let's just show a quarter of it.
okay, so this quilt evolved from, when Lily and I were here in the kitchen, and one day I just decided that I've been talking about getting my stash organized because I have all these buckets of fabric. And so I brought down 2 buckets of fabric and I started piling them up.
And that's the back.
Yeah, that's the backing, which Joe loves. I mean, this is a quilt, it's very simple, but when you see it, it's very vibrant, it's very him.
Let's see if I can.
Yeah, you can
behind
probably,
you.
yeah.
Get another layer.
Yeah, I have put it on my Instagram. It just has a real vibrancy to it. And it's,
Yeah, and so what about the batting, Mom? Because this is your quilting channel, so like, do people want to know
the
about
batting
this batting?
is a poly batting. I asked her, I've been searching for a thin poly batting that's like Fairfield traditional poly.
I don't know if that helps.
And I have kind of made stabs at it. But usually what ends up is I get something that's just too thin. And I've done some quilts in cotton, but for this quilt I wanted it to be durable poly quilt like I was used to, that would have a lot of, you can show the stitch definition, I think.
Is this?
Yeah, the stitch definition, you can really see hills and valleys. So anyway, there's a lot of quilting to be done there, but I just decided, it's like 90 degrees out, even in air conditioning. I think just the idea of quilting on it, it will be much more fun to be doing it in the fall. So it's on, it's going to be back there. But in the meantime, I had this lovely stash of fabrics, especially this one right here. I never get 2 yards, but I got 2 yards of this one because it is one of the prettiest neutrals. I just love it. I do a lot of white on white quilts or backings, and this one, the geometry of it just sang. So I got that, and then I have been, all of you who have been following me know that I've been on this path of vintage fabrics and using them in my quilts. It started way back in, is it now 5 years ago now, that the Grandma Johnson quilt?
Yeah.
I had inherited a Dresden plate from my great-great-grandmother, and it wasn't finished, and there was just no way in the world I was going to make a pastel and flower sack, finish quilting it. And it really should have been quilted by hand if it was going to be quilted. So I had made the decision, I've said this story so many times, so I'll make it short. I just decided that I'm the quilter now, and I'm going to use it like fabric. And I don't regret a moment of what I did to that quilt, because that quilt is living on in so many different ways with, people in the family have I ended up making little trees out of it. Cutting the Dresden plates just fit perfectly in little trees, and then you make trunks. And they went on all kinds of different backgrounds, and I used up so much of my fabric that way, and I just went nuts. And I have a beautiful big quilt that I've shown before that hangs in our second floor hallway, and I every day I see it and I just love it. So her quilt's living on that way. Well, the problem was getting done with that, and I had another one that I used, and I've also shown that one, which was my great Aunt Bess on my grandfather's side. and I also had a quilt unfinished left from her, and I used that in a different quilt that I've also shown on the channel. But I ran out of family. I have little bits and pieces of these quilts that I use in things when I make things, but I started with the hexagons during the pandemic, which I'm not going to go into. That was like a whole thing. So I did the hexagons. And then when I was doing the hexagons, I just discovered on Etsy that
Oh my God, Sally.
I know this.
I don't think I've actually seen this.
Well, this is like, this is, one quilt's worth. See this?
Sally.
What? I mean, it is like crack. I mean, I don't
It
need to
is
be,
like crack. Look at you.
but what this
Look
is,
at this.
this is like, I looked this up this morning to see what they said about it. And these are like 20s and 30s fabrics. And they're supposed to be like a wedding ring quilt or there's other patterns. These are wedges. The wedges get appliqued down. They have plain pieces in between. There weren't any, there was nothing.
Like a half moon.
There was nothing done. I mean, you just have to look up 30s wedding.
Sure.
But anyway, I saw those fabrics and I kept going like, oh my God, I cannot leave that. And I kept staying away from it. And then I finally said, oh hell, I'm getting that. Because I had already done, I don't want to get ahead of myself. That was one whole bunch of quilts. And I'm like, that's where I'm at now. I have other things, 2 other processes that went on before this. And it's so exciting to me because they really are, they're like you always told me to do, was to make quilts in series.
Mm-hmm.
And we have stepped out of the series because we did Grandma Johnson's, which was a thrill. And then I did the hexagons, which people have them all over the world. And if you have one of those, just know you have a piece of my heart. That was a way of getting through the pandemic and I have a lot of those around the house and some that I'm going to make an installation out of. But anyway, so then after that, I went into I found a bunch of Dresden plates, which was like Grandma Johnson's, but they were like this, they were a Dresden plate, a circle, and they were orphans. The poor little things had never been made into a quilt. But most of them were hand-stitched. They were those exquisite 20s, 30s, 40s fabric. And I just decided, hey, I can't leave this alone. I love these fabrics so much. So I had 2 different sizes of jars, tops, and I started cutting them out. And that's, a lot of those are in my Etsy shop. They're like these. I put cute little labels on the back of these. You can show them.
Let me be Vanna.
I have lots of different renditions of these kind of, and these used to be,
isn't that adorable?
Labels? Well, that's also, those little labels are petals that I've gotten that are vintage fabric also. There is so much material. Like, if you think about all of us current quilters, if we were suddenly to vanish and we sent all, we had all this stuff and our family had to deal with it, there would be so much material.
These are cute. Dancing moons.
I love them.
Very sweet.
Somebody has already purchased one of those. I think somebody around here, actually, Mount Horeb,
All right.
But anyway, yes, dancing moons. I love those. The reason that is, because you see the dancing tigers on there. I love those. And I can show you. I also made them a little bit smaller circles, and these are all in my Etsy shop. These I love. They're called mini galleries. And what I found, and I know I'm obsessed, but what I found was when I took a circle template and I cut it out of a previously made, orphan block, they were like magic. They were like little paintings. They, you never know how they're going to look until you actually free them from the fabric. So my mission is to take these women's work and bring them up into, it's like many of them, it's like 100 years later.
Right, yeah,
That
totally.
It really is. And so 100 years later, and they're
Alright,
going,
sorry. Like, I don't know if you can see the fabric that these are on. but
oh
it's
yeah,
just-
they're
it's got
on,
such a
that's
cool,
a shot cotton.
Yeah, love the
Mhm.
dye on that.
Well, see,
You
this is
just
the other
can't
thing.
really see it. Oh, it's just so rich.
Is that I have an incredible
Yes, you
stash
do.
of fabrics, and so this has been fun. I think, well, here's another one that's using the circle. So I started making, you could show them that.
Samplers.
You know, making, well, just using the circles on a pieced block. You know, just going in. I had a lot of leftovers laying around from making these other things, these various stages, and those are Liberty of London
Beautiful.
backings. I have really used a lot of
Oh,
Liberty
you
London.
sure have, yeah.
So I'm going to show you just what's, I only brought down a couple of things from my shop, but you can see
Oh, yeah.
that's Sally Jerney Quilts and Etsy, and they're just filled with goodies.
Very cool.
Isn't that pretty? I love that. That's a Cape Cod Shibari, a woman out in Massachusetts, I believe.
Gorgeous.
And she does beautiful dyeing.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is just what was lying around on my table. It has some vintage fabrics in it, and this, you know, one of the wedges. And then that beautiful, from Circa Fabrics, if you raise that up a little bit, that teal rose on the white. Isn't it? That's a, I'm having a blank on the kimono fabric. Anyway, you
Right.
could talk. It's just beautiful, and I've been using that. I use that in Joe's quilt. So, then the next project, you know, as I'm not showing what I'm doing right now.
Don't know where you're going, but it's okay.
It's okay. The next project just stole my heart. It was like love at first sight. Last January, in the midst of, I believe last January was in the midst of the coming out of pandemic quilts, and, you know, a whole different, I did a lot of strata and rainbows, and, you know, beautiful. I was just like having, because I was just in my house, I had lots of time to just quilt, and it was just wonderful. Well, anyway, another little Etsy excursion. I highly recommend it. I mean, these fabrics are there. I don't know how long they'll exist, because they're the leftovers. You know, everybody's clamoring for the old quilts because they're making them into clothes and whatever they're doing. But the actual leftover pieces, like the petals that people have cut out, these are things people labored over, and they leave them. I mean, they got left behind in droves. I mean, it was just incredible.
Well, imagine. I mean, I don't want to.
No, but if I were to
like
walk
if
away
you-
tomorrow-
yeah, we'll just say if
Yeah,
you walked away,
I walked away and I
tomorrow,
said, enough. I'm not doing any more quilting.
right, there would be all these wonderful little treasures up in your
Yes,
shop. In your,
and these lovely people have made all these beautiful things.
right.
Well, this is the only one that I have that I haven't actually used. This is a spool, and it's a very traditional 1930s pattern. It's cut out by hand. I had something like, when I looked at the Etsy
Why?
shop, it's
Why would
like
you make that shape? What does it do?
it tessellates.
Oh,
It's like they
interesting.
go inside each other, and the whole quilt is made by hand, and they fit one inside the other. It's a
got
perfect
it.
pattern.
So
Yeah.
this side here would fit in here.
Yeah, and it's a
that's-
curved
isn't
piecing.
that
It's
an
hard-
amazing
Yeah.
illusion, because this looks much
It
longer.
does, and but when you you have to hand piece, and it's all curved piecing. There were like
Yeah, you can
280.
the hand,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, 'cause
that
I
wasn't you, right?
No, I
You
took that
pulled
apart.
That out. Yeah.
There were like 280 of them, and there was maybe I was going to keep them, but I needed them for the quilt. There were
It's a
about,
beautiful piece of fabric.
I know, and so
And then Sally pulled
no,
out her
well, I mean, no. The
coder.
thing was
set
is
them
that they
free.
were in a black, just like this, a black bucket, and I just, I can't tell you how gorgeous. Well, I mean, I can tell you because I have it in front of me. This quilt, this was like a treasure. I couldn't believe it.
Finish the process. now.
Okay, so anyway, I had them there under my dresser. I know I get so excited about this because,
I know.
like I said, this was
Yeah, Okay, so
Okay,
what'd you
so
do?
anyway, I decided after I had time again to take those spools out, and I did not want to do the hand make. I don't even really like spool quilts. If I had one, it would be fine, but I tried to figure out what would be the dimension that I could use to make this into a shape that would be more usable, which of course is a rectangle. So that, I don't remember the measurement, but that's what I did. It actually got cut down a little, there was quite a little bit of waste on there, but some of them were so cute. I took a picture of this, and I think it's in my highlights in my Instagram.
Something like this.
These are what you call charm quilts. And what I recognized when I put this quilt together and was playing with the spools is this was probably a quilt guild or a church group or, a ladies' auxiliary or something, where they would come together and they'd bring their series of, like the lady would bring, this is something like from her dress, and she would have cut this all up to as many spools as she could make them. And then another lady would bring hers, and then they'd trade them, so that everybody's quilt would have as many different fabrics as possible, which is why it's called a charm quilt. Well, true to form, in every group, some people are less accurate than others. And some of them were so inaccurate that it made it difficult for me to fit them into my quilt. So I decided to go a little bit narrower than this, because there was one with a little yellow fabric with a little clown in it that I just love. So I managed to be able to just eke that one out to use in my pattern. Maybe I'll be able to show it to you. But then I also discovered if you just take this and divide it in half, you have a perfect square. So I decided to make a quilt that had two different things going on. And this is my beloved spool quilt, is what I call it. It's like my rendition of a 30s quilt, but modernized, because it has lots of different modern fabrics in it. My stash of Japanese fabrics, all these are fabrics that I've gotten from Circa Fabrics. This is one Jackie and I got way back when she was a little girl at a flea market. So it's a combination of squares, just plain squares, and then taking, and many of these were only one of a kind, remember. So I would make this, fold it in half, cut it, and then there would be a certain number of them that would just get stitched to the rectangle. So I made a block.
So you can see rectangle,
see, that's exactly.
Rectangle, and then a little.
So I made squares the same size as my plain squares, and then there's a sort of a formula on how I did that. I made big, I think 20 patch blocks, so that I think if you hold it up, you can see how I'm pretty, it's been a while always, but see how they'll diagonal. If you go in and examine them, you'll be able to see that this is all part of one block. The construction was just so fun.
Pardon me, somebody would like to come inside.
So I just show you some of these plain blocks is how they, but the construction of it was just kind of an organic thing that happened. As I said, this quilt that was a labor of love. I mean, I loved it. And so I decided, since it was from that era, those fabrics, and this is the kind of quilt that you want to nap under, because you want to be able to study, every view of it. And you can't really see it here, but the fabrics themselves have been in that bucket all winter long for me, and I've been oohing and ahhing over them every time I touch them.
Yeah, and they're beautiful close up.
Yeah.
And all the hand stitching.
Yeah, and so I hand stitched this whole thing, and I did a beautiful cotton batting. I don't remember the brand, but the cotton batting shrinks when you wash it, and so then it crinkles, and that's the sign of a. So this is now a well-loved quilt.
Right, so you can see all the pucker.
Yeah. So
And This I thought was magnificent.
Oh, yes.
The binding is
That was a
just
new. I got that
so-
from that Minnesota Makers or something. I can't remember. It's shop
I don't
up
know,
in the
but
Twin
it's
Cities
just-
that you and I never got to.
Right.
But
Okay,
it's
sorry.
it's needles.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a dream. I mean, that quilt I started it in May and I had it done in the middle of June.
Yeah.
I was
Just
just
went
like,
to
I
town.
did because, and that's, I don't know how many naps we've taken on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that was awesome. And that was, that quilt just like blew me away and how, that was the one where I said, I'm going to, I have talked about this on my podcast before where there's quilts that I make for my shop. There's never a quilt in my shop that I wouldn't put in my own house. I just, if I want to continue to make quilts, I have to have an outlet for them. So it's been lovely to see my quilts going out into the world, and many of you have them, and that really fills me. But, I still have them all over the walls in our house. But I had decided at one point...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
These are little tigers.
Yes, isn't that adorable?
Yes.
That's
sorry,
Melody Miller from, I can't remember the...
There's little tigers
Yeah.
dancing around the moons.
I
Okay,
love it. That's why
sorry.
it's called Dancing Moons. I mean,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. And some of these show them that again. I mean, that moon in that, look at that fabric. I mean, I keep going on and on about it, but do you see the dots inside those blues and those are so Art Deco-y from that era. They're so incredibly beautiful. That's why I'm so addicted.
All right. So what are you working on now?
Okay, take a pause. Okay, back from Door County, I decided not to quilt Joe's quilt because it's too heavy. So I went upstairs and I thought, I just want to do, I had that, that pile, these guys, these arcs of just to die for quilt pieces.
So you had to set them free somehow, right?
I did, and I'm going to...
How can I set these free?
Well, I want them to be used. I don't want them to just,
It's just so cute how, it's just, when I look at that, I don't see that. So that's what I super appreciate.
Yeah, it is.
Because, I just never in a million years would think, oh,
Somebody went to all the
circle.
trouble to cut these things out.
Totally.
I mean, that quilt was practically done. And it's very, I haven't got the skills to put that together anyway. I mean,
of course you do. But.
Well, yeah.
All
But
right, anyways, not the desire.
Yeah, I'm still going to use some of those as strips. And Lily and I were kind of talking about making them sort of like seaweed wavy. And so these strips will be used as they are.
But what are you up to now?
Now I'm making more circles. And I decided to use, what's new. Well,
It's all right.
Circles.
What you do.
It's what I do. I mean,
I love circles.
look at I know I have a friend of mine, Rebecca, who is, I think, is in love with circles as much as I am.
I know. So see the different.
So I often think of her when I'm cutting out circles and going, I know you understand why they're addictive.
The different pieces, and isn't that interesting? All right, so I have to come back just a little bit, right? And so, how and why you decide where exactly to cut is also
you only have so many choices. I get 4 circles out of each wedge, and that's a pretty good use of fabric.
Right.
But look how subtle that one is.
Mm-hmm. And again, I look at this by itself and they're super cool, but I don't have this. I've got a different skill set and it's not this.
Well, and I'm also going to do something. I have so many circles. I have other ideas that I want to use circles in too, but that's
right.
So we could go.
It's kind of a cross section there.
So then back to where I'm at now, which was, what do I do with all the fabrics that I got from Door County if I want to enjoy using those? So I started thinking when I was up there, and one of the fabrics that I was most drawn to was that, that neutral block line drawing fabric, the lighter one. And I just started taking my stash and cutting them into 4-inch strips or squares, and these are the ones that are done right here. And what I'm doing now, and it takes it's a lot of auditioning. I just made 4 patches, which is a very basic quilt block. And I love 4 patches for that very reason, because it's very traditional, but yet it can be very, very modern. And when you're putting these fabrics on top of it, I still plan on doing some stripping around these. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure on how these blocks are going to finish into quilts, but they will. Some of them will probably just be 4 patches with a strip around them.
Isn't that fun?
Isn't that the coolest thing? I mean, look at the colors in that.
Right.
And so that's where, I have got, you should see my quilt desk up there. I have got stacks of fabrics that, I'm making into. I can hardly move fast enough because I'm so excited by this.
Angle on that is very cool.
But yeah, I mean, look at those. And they're just...
free. They've gotten free, Sally.
They've gotten free. Now they're going to be in my work for a while. And, hopefully they'll find their way to other people's. There's a, I have a lot of orphan quilt blocks too that I may incorporate into works with these. I'm not sure. But right now what I'm doing is I'm just
making circles.
I'm making circles, and I'm finding out which ones want to play together, because that's what's so exciting to me right now. And then these are the ones that are,
sure.
Well, you can show them those because they're still just as cool. They just have safety pins. I haven't, they're in the audition phase. I haven't, so I'm experimenting with different backings, and I don't know. I'll go on. They're, they may not be in this format. This is a work in progress. I also said I wanted to get my, that beautiful Japanese blue on white dandelion.
Yeah, you'll get there. This is where you are right now.
I know, but these might be incorporated into that.
Yeah.
Because this is a very Japanese looking. I may put these on diagonal, which I love doing.
Sure, yeah.
With plain, But right now, it's it's a good thing to be doing
this. I like the more neutral.
Oh, I do too. Isn't that gorgeous?
Being so neutral.
I love
the pops
neutral.
Of red and pink and gray.
I love those red and black and
like
gray.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all about that one.
Oh, good. So you approve of that. And then that's pretty for the greens. How they,
Cute. What would you call that flower?
Daisy.
A daisy? A red daisy?
Well, it's a red daisy. It can be very...
I guess. There you go. So just lots of... Yeah.
And there's one more. So anyway, we're toying around. I don't know where that's going to go, but I just know that I have been very excited about the quilting journey I've been on. I have... I don't know, I've really enjoyed bringing out these vintage fabrics in a way that I think honors them and is not, it's not really destroying them, I don't think. I think they're being brought forward in a new light. So I look forward to having, these will probably be, I have lots of circle quilts in the shop that may not look that much different than this, but it's like children, I mean, they may look similar, but these children, believe me, are different than the ones that are in the shop right now, because they come from, every quilter is different.
Of course.
And so
sure.
What I'm finding is, and this is why we get, getting to the subject of I need to study textiles, is it blows me away the number of different fabrics that you don't come across, like this woman's work. I have a few fabrics I've seen in other things.
Yeah, we're trying to convince Sally to go take classes, to go audit as a senior.
Yeah.
Sally could audit classes at UW-Madison. And so with Lily moving into the school, at the School of Human Ecology, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so doing textiles, there might be an opportunity to kind of go down there and do some, I think you would totally get.
Well, I just have so many questions on how they printed these, and
your fellow students would love you.
I hope so. That would be fun.
It would be super fun.
It would really be fun. So
yeah, and I love it. I'll just put in a plug. So I love it when you do this, and so I'm.
Well, these are the basting stitches.
Right. No, I know.
These have not been put with batting.
They're not sandwiched or anything.
Yeah.
I love it when you go a little off-road.
Oh, I know you do. Yeah.
Make up some whimsical stitching.
That's what I'm going to do on that little piece of block that's off of. Oh, and I think Oh, yeah. Every quilt I make, I always I just go up there and they call it priming the well. You just go up and you start doing things and seeing where it goes. And I was up. Isn't this pretty? I mean, this isn't done. This is.
Gotta speed back a little bit.
That's a pair of Lily's jeans that have this interesting road mark. Can you see the coloring on the jeans? And I think that might be a pair of Heron's pants, that gray one back there. But anyway, I just put that together. That's just like a neutral. And then this is another just little piece of neutral that has a lot more borders and stuff that it needs on it. And, I was thinking about maybe putting a little, this has the drop cloth, maybe putting a couple of I don't have them here anymore, but these neutrally circles on it.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
And that was fun because I had a linen blouse that I had gotten last year and I wasn't wearing, and I just cut the bottom off and the sleeves off, and it fit me. Yeah. So
there you go. I can do this.
I can, yeah. So now I have a blouse I can wear, and I have leftover wild linen fabric.
Right.
So we don't know. We have our ladies down in Tennessee right now. They're probably exhausted. Jackie and Caitlin. We're back from Black Mountain yesterday. And you've done an episode kind of with Lily speaking in the background about.
It's cherry pie season, so I made a cherry pie. We were up in Door County, so we got fresh off the tree Door County cherries, and the pitting process and the crust and the whole 9 yards. So made pie.
It was delicious.
Super good. So just got to pull that all together. So quite a lot from our family unit this weekend.
And how was your trip with Poppy? I mean, how would you assess her behavior?
I think Poppy mostly really enjoyed Door County. She loved being in the water, and she loved getting to go explore different places. And it was her first time sleeping outside of her crate, and she did really well. So all in all, great trip. We even had an opportunity to wallow in a mud hole on our way home.
Yes, that's true.
She found the one puddle of mud and got herself in there, so that was fun. Thankfully, we had a lot of towels in the car. So, but she's a great traveler.
Yeah, she did very well.
We had a lot of fun, and
So one day we'll go to Door County, just a ladies' weekend up. Maybe in the fall, that would be so much fun. But we know we can
what
do
everybody's watching wants. Come quilt and spend a weekend retreat with Caddy Jacks and Sally Jerney.
Oh my
Quilts
God, would I love that?
In Door County. So
Washington Island.
Seed in Washington Island. Right, there we go. Maybe next year we'll pull together an event.
I love that idea. I hadn't even thought about
That's
it.
right,
Just
absolutely.
we have the knitters.
If that's something that floats your boat and you go, heck yeah.
Contact
go to
Jackie
Door
and
County.
Caitlin and tell them to,
Contact Sally. What are you talking about?
No, I'm talking to them.
Right, yes.
Because they're the mover and shakers that would actually, the knitters are the ones that, quilters like to do it too, but it's the knitters that we have a lot of
quilters, makers,
that would like to do
hanging
that.
out and spending time together. So anyways, maybe next year.
But anyway, have fun. Go to go see your local quilt shop because there's nothing like it. It's
Your
great.
LQS.
Your LQS, because I have to say, and nothing against online shopping, but there's quite a few times when I have online shopped and then I get it, and it would not be the fabric that I would have bought if I had been in the shop, because there's nothing like it all. Or when you're in the shop the second day.
Right.
So
yeah.
So it was nice to keep people. I mean, that's how we kept our local businesses in business, was shopping while we were.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great.
Oh, this is fun. So 45 minutes of quilt talk, and we love you guys, and hopefully this all gets up. I'm waiting for Jackie to get home, and we'll get everything up about the same time.
Yeah.
So bye-bye.
Bye.